Yes, students, now we will learn the topic of losses. The provisions with respect to set off and carry forward of losses is contained in section 70 to 80 of Income Tax Act. But every section is not a part of your syllabus. Whatever is covered in your syllabus, we'll be learning it now. And with respect to loss adjustment, I have already covered it individually under the respective head, that is at the end of house property head and PGBP head and capital gains, guys. Now, as a whole also, we'll be learning it as a separate chapter. First, for income tax purpose, there are two category of loss, guys. That is current year loss and carry forward loss. Whatever loss the assessee has suffered during the current year is called current year loss. And for current year loss, he has two options. One is you can adjust it within the same head, which we call it as intra-head adjustment. And if not possible, you can also adjust it against other heads. That is income against other heads, which we call it as inter-head adjustment. If not possible, only then he will carry forward that loss. And in the future, that is in the subsequent year, it will be called as brought forward loss, guys. Okay. And it has to go in the same order, guys. That is, whenever the assessee has suffered the loss in the current year, if possible, first he has to adjust it within the same head. If not possible, he can adjust it against other heads. If that is also not possible, he will carry forward. So I have given the number here. In the same sequence, we need to check the adjustments. Okay. So we will learn one by one. First, with respect to current year loss. Sir, is intra-head adjustment possible? Yes. So if assessee has suffered a loss under the respective head and if he has the income, can he adjust that loss against that income? Yes. But in the following cases, it is not possible. Which are those? Speculation business loss, specified business loss, then long-term capital loss and loss from the activity of owning and maintaining resources. Guys, loss from any of this source can be adjusted against the same nature of income I have mentioned here. It cannot even be adjusted within the same head. For example, sir, can speculation business loss be adjusted against income from another business? No, not possible. Speculation business loss can be adjusted only against speculation business income. Same way, specified business loss can be adjusted only against specified business income. Same way, long-term capital loss can be adjusted only against long-term gain. And the last one, loss from the activity of owning and maintaining resources, which is covered under the head other sources, has to be adjusted from the income from the same source, guys. Okay. Then, if intra-head is not possible, can we go for inter-head? Yes. Inter-head is allowed. That is, if an assessee has a loss under one head, can he adjust it against the income from another head? Yes. Only when intra is not possible, you can go and check for inter. So that is first adjust it within the same head. If that is not possible, or else you don't have any income under that head, you have only loss. Then you can go and adjust it against the income from another head. But here also there are few exceptions. What are those? The same four exceptions will be carried here because this losses cannot be adjusted within the same head itself. So can we adjust it against other heads? No, not possible. And in addition to those 4 points, we have two more. What is it? Loss under the head PGBP from any business cannot be adjusted against salary income, guys. Cannot be adjusted against salary income. Same way, short-term capital loss cannot be adjusted against other rates of income. Short-term loss can be adjusted only against short-term gain or long-term gain. Okay, sir. Then, if both of this is not possible, for example, sir, I have only loss in the current year, no income. In that case, you can carry forward that loss. And when you carry forward the loss, you can adjust it only within the same head. And inter-head is not at all allowed. Once you carry forward the loss, you cannot adjust that loss against other heads of income. Maximum is you can adjust it only within the same head. But here also there are exceptions. That is, the same four exceptions will be carried here, guys, which can be adjusted only against same nature of income. Got it? This is just like a summary. Now we will see each one of them in detail, guys. Okay, first I'm talking about current year loss. Whatever I just give here by way of chart, guys, it is like a summary. Now let us learn each one of them in detail. Okay. First, sir, can we have a loss under the head salary? No, guys. Assessee cannot have a loss under the head salary. So straight away we will get into house property. So if there is a loss from house property, It can be adjusted against income from another house property, or it can also be adjusted against other rates of income, but maximum 2 lakh. Maximum 2 lakh. And this is available only if assessee is following optional scheme. Sir, what if assessee is following the default scheme under section 115 BAC? Then this is not available. Then this is not available. Let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. Please listen here. If an assessee is following default scheme under section 115 BAC, then he or she can adjust house property loss in the same year only against house property income. He cannot adjust it against other rates of income, and he cannot even carry forward that loss. Got it? Yes, sir. And if at all, if the assessor is following optional scheme, he can adjust house property loss against the other rates, but maximum 2 lakh. Sir, what if the loss is more than 2 lakh? Then the remaining loss can be carry forward, provided assessor is following optional scheme. Okay. Then under the head PGBP, we will divide the business into 3 types for the adjustment of loss, guys. So first one, speculation. Sir, what is speculation business? When assessor is buying and selling anything online without actual delivery, without physical delivery, we call it as speculation, guys. So the risk is more here. That is why if a assessor has a loss from speculation business, it can only be adjusted against income from speculation, guys. Same way, specified business. For specified business of whatever capital expenditure is incurred other than LGF. LGF means land, goodwill, and financial instruments. Except these 3 capital expenditure. Any other capital expenditure incurred by the assessee for specified business is allowed as deduction in the year in which it is incurred. Even if it is incurred before the commencement of business, then entire capital expenditure except LGF is allowed in the year in which the business has commenced. And in the initial year, the assessee will have huge losses. So in that case, they are telling loss from specified business can be adjusted only against income from specified business, and it can be carried forward for any number of years. Okay, sir. So these two are special business for loss adjustment. Okay. Then any other business will come here, guys, under normal category. Under normal category. And if it is a current year business loss, we can adjust it against income from some other business. Sir, loss from this business, can it be adjusted against income from speculation or income from specified? Yes, allowed. But vice versa is not allowed. Speculation or specified loss cannot be adjusted against income from other businesses. But if I have a loss from other business, can I adjust it against income from speculation or income from specified? Yes, I can adjust. Yes, I can adjust, guys. Okay, sir. And if it is not possible, if I don't have any income from any other business, then you can adjust it against other heads of income, but except salary. Except salary, guys. Okay. Then coming to short-term capital loss. Short-term capital loss can be adjusted only against short-term gain or long-term gain. And it cannot go outside the head. Even though it is a current year loss, still you cannot take it outside the head. And long-term loss can be adjusted only against long-term gain. Any long-term gain, whether it is under section 112A or 112. Got it? Yes. With respect to loss treatment, guys, we don't differentiate the short-term, long-term capital gains. Clear? Any short-term loss can be adjusted against any short-term gain or any long-term gain. Same way, any long-term loss can be adjusted against any long-term gain. Got it? Whether it is 112 or 112A. Same way, short-term loss also. So short-term gain on the transfer of LEFT is covered in section 111A. Yes. If it is any other asset, it is a normal income taxable at normal rate. Yes. No matter from which short-term asset you have a loss. Can we adjust it against any short-term gain? Yes. Or any long-term gain. Hope you understood. Then, guys, if assessee is carrying on the business of activity of owning and maintaining racehorses, please be careful. He is not winning from race. He is owning and maintaining the racehorses, which will participate in the race. Okay. Now, if we earn any income from this activity, it is taxable under the head other sources. And if he has suffered the loss, that loss can be adjusted only against income from the same activity. Same activity. Yes, sir. So whatever I discussed in this table is with respect to current year loss. So for current year loss, we have an option of both intra-head as well as inter-head, subject to few exceptions. If both is not possible, then what will I do, sir? I will carry forward. I will carry forward. Okay. Then carry forward and set off of losses, which we call it as brought forward losses. So one by one we will see headwise. First, if I have a loss from house property, which I couldn't adjust within the same head or outside the head in the current year, I will carry it to the next year. And in the next year, I can adjust it only within the same head and within 8 years. Within 8 years. But this benefit is not available for the assessee who is following default scheme. As I already mentioned, guys, the assessee who is following default scheme, if he has any loss from house property, he can adjust it only within the same head in the same year. He doesn't have any other benefit. Okay. Then, with respect to business, we have three businesses which we already discussed. Loss from speculation can be adjusted only against income from speculation within 4 years. Within 4 years. Then loss from specified can be adjusted only against income from specified, but indefinitely. It can be carried forward for any number of years. But this is not allowed for the assessee who is following default scheme loss. Because first of all, capital expenditure on the specified business is not allowed for the assessee who is following default scheme. Correct now. And if by chance if he has any loss, can he carry forward it and adjust it? No, not possible under default scheme. Okay, but if assessee is following optional scheme, loss from one specified business, can it be adjusted against income from another specified business? Yes, it can be adjusted. Next, short-term capital loss can be adjusted either against short-term gain or long-term gain within 8 years, guys. Same way, if it is a long-term loss, it can be adjusted only against long-term gain in the 8 years time. Then the last one, loss from activity of owning and maintaining resources. It can be adjusted against the income of the same nature within 4 years. And whatever time period I covered here, 8 years, 4 years, and all, no, guys, please be careful. It is excluding the year in which the loss is suffered. For example, assume assessee suffered a loss in the current year. So in the current year, he has an option of what? Intra-head, inter-head. If both is not possible, he will carry forward. And once he carry forward, the first year will count from next year, not from current year. Clear? So whatever when we are calculating 8 years or 4 years time, the year of loss should be excluded. The first year will only start from next year, because only from next year we call it as brought forward loss, guys. Okay, sir. And I have given one shortcut here. Means each loss can be carried forward for how many years? Guys, if it is a loss under the head income from other sources, you can only adjust within the same year. You cannot carry forward it. But one exception is loss from the activity of owning and maintaining resources, which can be carried forward for 4 years. Okay. Then, if it is an unobserved depreciation under the head PGBP and specified business loss, it can be carried forward for any number of years. And unobserved depreciation can be adjusted against any income except salary and casual income. Okay. And actually, against casual income and undisclosed income, you cannot adjust any loss, guys. Okay. Fine. This too can be carried forward for any number of years. Then, loss from activity of owning and maintaining resources can be carried forward for 4 years, along with loss from speculation business. So, these two losses can be carried forward for 4 years, whereas any other loss can be carried forward for 8 years. And within 4 or 8 years, if you couldn't adjust that loss, then in the next year it will become lapse. You cannot carry forward further. Oh, some more points. Unobserved depreciation can be set off against any head, but it cannot be adjusted against salary income and casual income, guys. Okay. Then loss under the head income from other sources cannot be carried forward, but one exception is loss from the activity of owning and maintaining resources. Then no loss can be adjusted against casual income and undisclosed income, guys, which is covered under section 115 BB, BBJ, and undisclosed income under section 115 BBE. Okay. Then loss from the source which is exempt cannot be set off with taxable income. For example, sir, if I earn an income from an agriculture land which is used for agriculture purpose in India, it is exempt. What in any particular year if I suffer a loss? Can I carry forward that loss or can I adjust that loss? No. If you earn any income from a source which is exempt under the income tax law, and in any year if you suffer loss from that source, you cannot adjust that loss. You cannot carry forward that loss, guys. Oh. Then E. Loss returns shall be filed as per section 139 subsection 3 within the due date given under section 139 subsection 1 in order to carry forward the loss, guys. So if an assessee want to carry forward the loss, he has to file a loss return within the due date mentioned in section 139 subsection 1. Guys, whether it is a loss return or whether it is an income return, the due date is same only, which is given in section 139 subsection 1. Totally there are three due dates: 31st July of assessment year, 31st October of assessment year, or if the assessee is furnishing the transfer pricing report, it is 30th November of assessment year. Any one date would be applicable to the assessee. Okay. Which we already learned in PGBP, we will also cover it again in assessment procedure chapter. Okay. But exception is assessee can carry forward the house property loss and unabsorbed depreciation even without filing loss returns. Whereas if he want to carry forward any other loss, he has to file the returns within the due date. Sir, what if the assessee file belated return, that is after the due date? Then he will lose the benefit of carry forward of losses, guys. But exception is only this two: house property and unabsorbed depreciation. Got it? Yes. And we learned that, guys, under capital gains, if I have any loss, it can never be adjusted against other heads. Sir, but what if I have a loss from other head? Can I adjust it against capital gains income? Yes, provided it is a current year loss and it is not covered here. It is not covered in any of these exceptions. Got it? Yes, sir. The impact of section 115 BAC on set off and carry forward topic, guys. So if an assessee is following a default scheme given under section 115 BAC, then he has the following negative impact. What is it? One by one. So brought forward loss from house property, any property, whether it's self-occupied, let out or deemed to be let out property, cannot be adjusted, guys. I have also given a note here. Also, current year house property loss cannot be set off against other rates of income and it cannot be carry forward. Guys, simple. Let me talk about everything related to house property. If an assessee is following a default scheme under section 115 BSc, then interest on self-occupied property will be not allowed. That is maximum 30,000 or 2 lakh. 30,000 or 2 lakh will be allowed as deduction for interest on housing loan, no, for self-occupied property, but it will not be allowed if assessee is following default scheme. So income from self-occupied property will always be nil for an assessee who is following default scheme. Okay. Next, if he has any loss from an house property, maximum is he can adjust it only in the same year within the same head. He cannot adjust it against other rates of income. He cannot even carry forward. He cannot even carry forward. Assume now, in the last year, assessee was following optional scheme and he had an house property loss which he couldn't adjust. So he carry forward it because he has a benefit to carry forward it for next 8 years. But in the current year, he wants to follow default scheme. Can he adjust that house property loss? No, sorry. Once you come under the house property, once you come under the default scheme, you cannot adjust any carry forward house property loss, guys, or brought forward house property loss. Okay, next one. Brought forward specified business loss under section 3580. We have already learned in PGBP chapter that for the capital expenditure on specified business, deduction is not allowed under section 3580 for an assessee who is following default scheme. Yes, but assume in the last year assessee was following optional scheme and he has claimed deduction under section 3580 and he had a loss from specified business and he has carried forward that to the current year. And in the current year, he is willing to follow default scheme. Can he carry forward this adjust can he carry forward this loss and adjust it? No, he cannot. He cannot. If you are talking from current year point of view, in the current year, 3580 deduction is not at all allowed. But there can be a possibility that in the past, assessee has claimed 3580 deduction because he was following optional scheme and he had a loss. And now he has brought forward that loss. Can he adjust it? No. When he is under default scheme, he cannot adjust it. Same way, guys, contribution to the outsiders for any research is not allowed as deduction under default scheme as per section 35. Yes, sir. But in the past, if assessee was following optional scheme and if he has claimed that expenses because of which he has a business loss and now he has carried forward that business loss, can he adjust it in the current year? No. Once he has come under the default scheme, he cannot adjust such losses. The last one is unobserved depreciation, which is attributable to the additional depreciation. Guys, if you remember, in section 32, we discussed about depreciation. If an assessee has purchased new plant and machinery and installed in factory during the previous year, he can claim an additional depreciation of 20% in the first year. Yes. But if an assessor is following default scheme, then additional depreciation is not allowed. Whereas normal depreciation he can claim. Okay, on any assets, including plant and machinery. So once the assessor is under default scheme, he cannot claim additional depreciation. But assume in the past he was following optional scheme and he had claimed additional depreciation on new plant and machinery which is purchased and installed in factory. But he couldn't adjust the depreciation because he didn't have enough profit. So that amount of depreciation remained as unobserved. And that unobserved depreciation has been brought forward to the current year. Can he adjust it? No. Unobserved depreciation to the extent of additional depreciation cannot be adjusted against the business income or any income when assessee is under default scheme. But whatever unobserved depreciation is there to the extent of normal depreciation can be adjusted against any income except salary and casual income, guys. Got it? So in simple, all this are not allowed under default scheme. But if in case, in the past, if assessee was following optional scheme and if he has loss from any of this source, can he bring it now and adjust it? No. Even though it is within 8 years or 4 years, still he cannot adjust it, guys. Yes, students. So this is all about the revision of the topic set off and carry forward of losses. So come to the first page of the revision book. Let us just mark the sections quickly. So now we have covered section 70 to 80, whatever was a part of your syllabus. And guys, don't worry with respect to the questions. I will be covering or discussing the questions on total income and tax liability, covering all these topics, including clubbing, set off of losses, and heads of income, deductions, everything. I will be discussing more than 20 questions and I will be uploading a separate video on it. But before you watch that video, please make sure that you are thorough with whatever provisions we have covered, because all the provisions will be tested in total income questions, guys.